Hello everyone, welcome to Options with Doug, streaming live daily on Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Before I get started, I need to go through the disclosures. General disclosure: all Bookmap Limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure: trading futures, equities, and options involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. The focus of my presentation and the focus of the Options-Doug chat channel in Discord is options order flow, the impact of options markets on stocks and futures, and the influence of market maker hedging flow on price action. I have a two-step process for trading, and the first is planning, and I use positional analysis. I look at how market makers and traders are positioned in the options market and how those positions change from day to day to develop a thesis regarding the expected trading range and volatility for the day, as well as a directional bias. And the second step of my process is execution. And I look at real-time order flow in Bookmap and real-time market maker hedging flow in Spotgamma Hero to confirm my thesis and for setups for entries and exits. And when I talk about setups, I will be talking about setups in an underlying asset, and setups can be taken with futures, shares of stock, or options. My analysis is based on the options market and hedging flow and order flow, and again, the setups can be taken with futures, shares of stock, or options. Questions and comments are welcome, and I will be watching both the Options-Doug chat channel in Discord as well as the chat in YouTube for your questions and comments. And hello Jordan, glad you're here, welcome. Hello CarmFX, glad you're here as well, welcome. I believe you said you sent me a DM yesterday. I'm sorry I never received that. Maybe try again. My name in Discord is Doug P. Capital D-O-U-G, capital P. All right, again, questions and comments are welcome. My agenda for today, what I'm going to cover is the news items for today, wrapping up the week. Then I'll go through my positional analysis. Then I want to review some setups from this morning, and then we'll talk about the live market. And when I get to the live market, if anyone has any stocks they want me to take a look at, please let me know. All right, great, CarmFX, so you know where I am at Discord. All right, so news items for today. There were a couple of economic reports that did have an impact on the market. So let's just take a look at that now. Let me go to the S&P 500. So this is the ES futures in Bookmap, and I'm just going to point out the reactions to the economic data. So first, PPI came out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and it was a little bit higher or hotter than expected. Again, that was at 8:30, and there was an initial bearish reaction that continued lower until about 9:45. And just before the 10 a.m. data came out, the S&P 500 started to move higher, and then the 10 a.m. report was the Michigan consumer sentiment, 10 a.m. And as far as I could tell, that was in line. All right, so 8:30 a.m. data, PPI, very important, hotter than expected, bearish reaction, and then price reversed higher, starting just before the 10 a.m. Michigan consumer sentiment came out. So pretty strong market reactions to the data today. So that's why I talk about that every day, the key data reports. All right, so on Monday I'll cover the news items, the events for next week. All right, let's get started with positional analysis now. So again, this is the S&P 500 futures in Bookmap. Before I take a closer look at this chart, I want to take a look at a larger time frame. I'm going to take a look at an SPX chart. This is a 30-day, 1-hour chart. I'm going to zoom in on this so we can see current price action a little bit easier. All right, so this is the S&P 500 SPX index. What this is showing is the trend line break first. This trend line that began after the Fitch downgrade of the S&P, U.S. long-term debt. A gap down and then this downtrend. S&P 500 tried to break above that downtrend yesterday and is still now below that downtrend, that trend line. All right, let me point out some levels on this chart. First of all, the dashed purple lines are showing the lower and upper weekly expected move. And SPX is trading well within that range. Really, it looks like there's not a whole lot of change for the week. And then the lower and upper daily expected moves are shown with the dashed purple line, blue lines, and SPX is trading inside that range as well. So SPX is trading within the daily expected range as well as the weekly expected range. All right, let me point out some Spotgamma levels on this chart. So first of all, here's the 4,400 put wall. That's the strike with the largest net negative gamma that can be expected to act as support. And again, all these are proprietary Spotgamma levels. These are large gamma levels where market makers can be expected to react. So there's the 4,400 level. And the next level up is 4,485. That is the volatility trigger, that Spotgamma's proprietary gamma flip level. Below that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is negative. In a negative gamma environment, they have to trade with price to hedge their delta exposure, and that tends to enhance or increase volatility. And SPX is trading below that level today in a negative gamma position for market makers. And the next the next level up is 4,500. That's been a very key level. That is the absolute gamma strike. That's the strike with the largest absolute gamma, absolute positive and negative gamma. And then finally, the call wall is at 4,600. And that is the strike with the largest net positive gamma that can be expected to act as resistance. And that was in play for a long time, not so much right now. More concerned about the put wall. All right, as far as shifts in levels for SPX, the only level that shifted lower was the volatility trigger, slightly lower from 4,500 yesterday to 4,485. And that level has been trending down most of the week. Otherwise, the put wall, call wall, and absolute gamma strike remain the same, indicating pretty much a range of 4,400 as the floor and 4,600 as the ceiling, with 4,500 kind of being the pivot in between. And note there is, with a break of 4,450, next gamma level below is the 4,400 put wall. So that would be, again, the next level of support. All right, let's take a look at another SPX chart. And this is a 1 day, 1 minute chart, just looking at the levels, price action for today, turning out to be a kind of a range day, up and down, and price traded below the 44.50 level. That's a combo L2 level, and is now trading above. So not a lot of SPX levels directly in play for today. All right, let's take a look at Bookmap. So in Bookmap, I have my cloud notes here, and I'm showing SPX levels. There's the 44.50 level, noted as support in the Spotgamma AM Founders Note, as well as the 44.51 C2 level. And note there is a price difference between ES and SPX. And that level, that price difference is somewhere between 16 and 17 today. So I use 17 at the beginning of the day. So this 44.50 level, for example, is actually shown at ES 44.67. And then I also have SPY levels shown on this chart. And here's the SPY 445 level. Note that level was the put wall yesterday, and it acted as support the day before and yesterday, as well as overnight. And now price is trading up and down around that level. All right, so shifts in levels for SPY. There were quite a few. First of all, the volatility trigger also shifted lower, and the put wall, as I mentioned, shifted lower from 445, that used to be the put wall, to 440. Call wall actually shifted higher, back up to 460, and the absolute gamma strike dropped lower to 447. So overall, for the S&P 500, I interpret the shifts mostly lower as bearish. And we'll talk about setups in a few minutes. So pretty narrow range today, really, for the S&P 500, somewhere trading below SPY 444 and above SPY 446. All right, let's take a look at NASDAQ now. So here are the NQ futures in Bookmap, and the levels are a little bit easier to read for NASDAQ today than the S&P 500. A little bit wider trading range. Let's take a look at a QQQ chart before I take a closer look at this chart to see the QQQ levels in play for today. So most importantly, here's the QQQ 365 put wall. And that level more or less has acted as support. And note the 368 level did act as resistance this morning. So QQQ gamma levels as well as round number levels in play for today. Let's take a look at, go back to NASDAQ NQ futures, and note on my cloud notes here, I have the QQQ levels. There's the 365 put wall, as well as NDX levels. So that is this 14,978 combo 2 level that did act as support, more or less. Not perfect support. And then the NDX 15,090 volatility trigger, 15,090 volatility trigger, more or less acted as resistance. As well as the and there's the 368 level just above. All right, I'll talk about setups in a few minutes. All right, shifts and levels. So I talked about shifts lower mostly for the S&P 500, except for the SPY call wall. And then as far as shifts and levels for the NASDAQ, there were none in NDX. And then for QQQ, the volatility trigger did shift lower to 370. All right, let's take a look at gamma notional now to see how market makers were positioned on the gamma curve at the beginning of the day. So this gives us a sense of how market makers may react to changes in price and applied volatility, and we'll take a look at a graphical representation of that with the gamma Vanna model in just a moment. So first of all, let's start with gamma notional. This is market makers' position on the gamma curve at the beginning of the day for SPX, SPY, NDX, and QQQ. And note, I primarily look at SPY, SPX, and QQQ. So gamma notional, market makers' position on the gamma curve at the beginning of the day was negative for SPX, SPY, and QQQ. And these are pretty negative numbers, especially for SPY and QQQ. And these numbers did shift slightly less negative than yesterday, so shifted up, but still quite negative. So what this means, when market makers' position on the gamma curve is negative, it means that traders are long puts, market makers are short puts, and as price decreases and implied volatility increases, they have to sell futures to hedge their delta exposure. And when price increases and implied volatility decreases, they can buy back their short futures. So in a negative gamma environment, they're trading with price as it moves down and up. All right, so let's take a look at an illustration of that. So here's the Vanna model, and let's take a look. I looked at QQQ yesterday, and we'll look at SPY today. So again, gamma notional for SPY today was almost 1.8 billion negative. All right, SPY at the lower of the day was right around 443, so pretty firmly in the negative gamma portion of this Vanna model. So what this chart is showing is market makers delta notional and how that changes with price. There are two curves on this chart. The first, the light gray curve, shows how market makers delta notional changes with changes in price only. And then the purple curve shows how market makers delta notional will change with changes in price and applied volatility. And that change in delta with a change in applied volatility is the Vanna effect. Vanna is a second order Greek. So what this is showing is if price decreases, market makers delta notional will increase. They want to remain delta neutral, so they have to sell futures to hedge their delta exposure. And then on the other hand, if price increases, they can buy back their short futures as price increases and implied volatility decreases. And that is a put Vanna rally. All right, so again, SPY traded down around 443 at the low of the day. And right now it's trading somewhere between 444 and 445. So a little bit of a Vanna boost as price has increased. So what this is showing is that there will be a tailwind if price moves back up towards 450. Market makers can buy back their short futures. as price increases and implied volatility decreases. And then on the other hand, if price drops, they will have to sell futures to hedge their delta exposure. So this curve is very typical of a negative gamma environment, and I think it makes for better trading, wider ranges, higher volatility and wider ranges during the day. All right, so based on that, my thesis for the day was, first of all, looking for higher volatility based on the negative gamma position in the SPX, SPY, and QQQ, and then slightly bearish based on the drops lower in the volatility trigger put wall and absolute gamma strike for SPY. All right, let's take a look at some setups. I'm going to start with the S&P 500. And this chart is the Spotgamma Hero chart. Hero stands for Hedging Impact Real-Time Options. What this chart is showing is price, SPX price, with the white line. And this is the Hero signal of the purple line. And this is showing options trades in real time and market maker hedging activity based on those options trades. And this is for a combined signal for SPX, SPY, XSP, and ES futures. And this is a signal that you want to take a look at if you trade any form of the S&P 500, whether you're trading ES futures, SPY shares, SPY options, or SPX options. If you're using this to help with your trading decisions, this is the signal that you want to take a look at. All right, so let's take a look at the morning setups. So today there was a very good confirmation for long at the open as traders were taking positive delta positions, and then there was this divergent short as Hero started to drop lower and price made about an equal high before falling lower. So it looks like that was about a 15-minute lead for this Hero signal to indicate the move lower. All right, so a long setup and a short setup this morning. Let's go take a look at Bookmap. Go back to ES. Let's zoom in. So we're going to look at the clues in order flow here. So remember, just really from the open, options traders were taking positive delta positions. Price chopped up and down around a little bit. What I want to point out here is the heat map. This is really interesting. This heat map shows a history of the limit orders in the order book. And notice all of the limit buy orders there, helping to move price higher. Definitely traders wanted to get long around that area, right around 44.60 to 44.65, 62, something like that. Then aggressive buyers started to come in just a few minutes before the data, and then they really stepped in just after the consumer sentiment report. And note that once price started to move higher, it was fueled higher by stop orders. Those are shown by the small green dots there, as well as this rising yellow line. And then the rising pink line that changes to dark blue, that's cumulative volume delta, showing aggressive buyers. You can also just see that with the green volume dots. There's a good pullback entry just before 10:15 a.m. and you can see the very clear shift in order flow. Aggressive sellers shown by the magenta dots, and then aggressive buyers starting to come in, shown by the green volume dots. Those are market buy orders, buy minus sell. Green dot indicates more buyers than sellers, more aggressive buyers. All right, so that moved price up to about 44.92, so about a 30-point move higher. And remember, options traders started taking negative delta positions right around 10:30. Price made it equal high and then reversed lower. And note that a lot of aggressive sellers start to come in, no more aggressive buyers, CVDs shifting lower, as well as the stop orders, no more buy stop orders, moving the price higher. And one last thing to note is this falling light blue line showing that large traders were selling this move higher with iceberg orders. They use iceberg orders to hide their size, and there are not a lot of big events here, but they were steadily selling into the move higher. So good long setup in the morning and a good short setup. Excuse me. One thing to point out here is this 44.70 level. A lot of buying interest here, both with large traders with iceberg orders, and the events are shown with this blue indicator here. And you can see this level, the interest in icebergs really started right around here. See, these are these light blue horizontal lines. That's showing an order that has not been completely filled yet. So they get partially filled, remain in the book. I believe that's correct. That's been a long time since I looked at that, but there's a lot of interest in this level. Large traders with iceberg orders looking to buy. So what this number is showing is there were 1,360 contracts executed in 9 different transactions or 9 different executions. So that's what that number means. And also note the limit buy orders there concentrated right around the 44.70 level. So there's a lot of buying interest at that level. So those of you who may not be familiar with Bookmap, that's how to read it, and this is the value of the information that you get here in Bookmap, knowing exactly why price is reacting at that level because of the interest from larger traders with iceberg orders as well as these limit buy orders. All right, let's take a look at NASDAQ. All right, so NASDAQ, pretty similar to the S&P 500 today. Let's go take a look at Hero for NASDAQ, see what options traders were doing. And note, actually before we do that, let's take just one closer look at Hero for S&P 500. Note, overall for the day, the notional value is positive. Oops. Let's separate out puts and calls. So traders are buying calls. That's shown by the rising orange line, as well as the positive notional value. Traders are buying calls. They're also buying puts. That's shown by the falling blue line and then the negative notional value here. So far today, the call buyers are more aggressive. And it looks like they had a pretty strong influence on price as for that first morning long setup up until about 10:30. And note that when we dig into this a little bit more and see what traders were actually doing when we separate out puts and calls. So this is showing right around 10:20 that traders stop buying calls. That's shown by this orange line that flattens. So they were buying calls and then they stop, and about the same time they start buying puts, and that's shown by the falling blue line, and then price moves lower. So very clear picture of what traders were doing. So again, in the morning they were buying calls and selling puts, moving price higher, and then the activity shifts right around 10:20 and price moves lower right around 10:40. So that's some very clear indication of hedging flow and price action in the S&P 500 today from Hero. All right, let's take a look at NASDAQ. And NASDAQ, this is similar to the S&P 500. This chart is showing price for NDX and then showing a combined Hero signal with purple for NDX and QQQ. Zoom in on this chart. So after a little bit of up and down this morning, very similar to the S&P 500, there was a confirmation of a long right around 9:45, and then confirmation of a short just before 10:30. So traders were taking positive delta positions. Market makers were taking the opposite side of that, so they were buying NQ futures to hedge their delta exposure, and then when that activity stopped, traders started taking negative delta positions. Market makers had to sell futures to hedge their delta exposure. Let's go take a look at the book map. NASDAQ. We'll zoom in on this. So during this move up, primarily driven by options traders and aggressive buyers here, not much indication with the stops shown by the yellow line, except right for this last push higher, driven by that stop runs, buy stop orders shown by that rising yellow line. And it looks like large traders were somewhat fading this move, shown by the falling light blue line. So really, aggressive buyers and options traders fueling the move higher until the final stop run right up to the 15,090 level for NDX and the QQQ 368 level. And then there's the reversal lower as options traders started taking negative delta positions. And note that larger traders were selling more aggressively on this last push up with iceberg orders they used to hide their size. There's one shown with that pink symbol there, magenta, whatever that is. Note the numbers are going to be much smaller for NQ than for ES. All right, so similar setups for the S&P 500 and NASDAQ. Let's take a look at a couple of stocks now. So first is Meta. And if anyone wants, we can take a look at any of these other stocks or any other stock. So here's Meta, white line showing price for Meta, and the hero line in purple. And this was a nice divergent setup. You had to wait for it patiently, but as price was rising or chopping around, generally making higher lows in the morning. Options traders were taking negative delta positions, and then that behavior became more aggressive. They started taking more negative delta positions, and price responded lower. Let's go take a look at Bookmap. So that reversal was right around 1040, just the same as the S&P 500 and NASDAQ. So here's the reversal lower in Meta, and you can see all of the aggressive sellers here in the low end of this range, just right around 304, up and down around 304. So nice short setup, divergent short for Meta. And Karma FX asks, can we take a look at Palantir and URA? I'll take a look at Palantir. I can almost guarantee that URA is not available in Hero, and so I wouldn't have anything to look at. All right, so we'll try Palantir. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. All right, the next is Microsoft. All right, let's go take a look at Hero. Microsoft. And another divergent short here, just about 10 minutes after the open. Traders started taking negative delta positions, and price moved up and reversed lower about the same time, 1030, 1040. Let's just see what traders are doing. Let's zoom in just a little bit, so we're just looking at the morning. So in the morning, they were selling calls. That's shown by the falling orange line. And they were also buying puts. Notion of value, looking at this time of day, both negative. Net traders were buying puts and selling calls. All right, let's take a look, go back to the total signal, and again falling really after about 9:45, and looks like this was maybe a push higher right after the consumer sentiment number came out, and that was just provided a good opportunity for a short. Let's go back to Bookmap. So here's your short. In Microsoft after this sharp move higher. Just setting up a good short as options traders were fading that. So Karma FX asked, what exactly determines what will be available in Hero? And Spotgamma determines that. So they're looking for stocks that have very active options markets that tend to drive price. I have picked out my own watch list that I know for sure options are a key driver of price action on a daily basis. Primarily large cap tech stocks, the Magnificent Seven, and of course, the Hero list and Spotgamma is a little bit larger than that. But these are the stocks that I think may be the top stocks for in a list of stocks that are driven by options. But I know Palantir is in the list, and again, the Spotgamma makes the decision. And we'll take a look at the entire list in just a moment. All right, so there's Microsoft. The next is NVIDIA. And pretty bearish order flow in NVIDIA. You can see all the pink dots coming in at the open. And really starting right around 10:15, price action dominated by aggressive sellers. All right, so NVIDIA made a very clear series of lower highs before finally breaking low the last test of VWAP. Price breaking lower. Let's take a look at Hero and see what traders were doing. Go back to Hero. Microsoft, divergent short, just like in Meta. Here's NVIDIA. So net for the day, traders are selling calls and buying puts. Notion of value for both is negative. Let's zoom in on this. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to take a look at something else. This is Equity Hub, showing the key daily levels and how they have changed over the last 10 days. And this is something that I look at for developing a directional bias in a stock. And note that for the last 10 days, this is the key gamma strike for NVIDIA, has dropped from 500 down to 430 today and moved lower the last couple of days. So that is bearish. This persistent call demand that was available, that was in play earlier this year, is no longer in play. There's that persistent call demand is not there anymore, and these gamma levels are dropping lower. Hedge wall, which is similar to the volatility trigger for stock, dropping lower. Call wall has dropped from 500 down to 432. And the put wall has shifted slightly lower as well. So all bearish trends lower for NVIDIA. Traders are looking for and expecting lower prices, and these key gamma levels are shifting lower based on traders' expectations. All right, so let's go take a look at Hero now. And again, strong correlation between options trades, hedging flow, and price action for NVIDIA. That's pretty typical. Let's go back to Bookmap, go to NVIDIA. And again, series of lower highs, multiple short entries as price moved down towards first of all, went through the first target, which was at 405. Note the high liquidity at the typically at the zeros and fives. That was the first target at 410. Next target at 405. And right before noon, it looks like price started to recover, trying to move higher. Let's go back and take a look at Hero. All right, so really no gamma levels in play for below. NVIDIA is below its put wall at 420. All right, let's look at questions now. All right, so CarmFX wants to take a look at what stocks are available, what stocks support Hero, or what stocks are included with this Hero list. So here's the list, and that is, they want to, their criteria is basically to see stocks, have stocks here that have active options markets that tend to drive price, not every day, all day. And there are some here that definitely do, and some that don't. All right, so CarmFX wants to see Ford. So we'll scroll down. So here's Ford. As far as a Hero signal, I would consider this not, or maybe consider it questionable, not having a lot of influence on price action. So the notional value here, 5.6 million, versus the the S&P 500, it's in the billions with a B. All right, so there's Ford. Looks like a choppy day, kind of making lower highs. Options traders not having a strong influence today. So that's one reason that I kind of stick to the same stocks. That gives me enough variety, but I know Hero will be and options trades, market maker hedging activity shown by Hero will be a key driver of price in those stocks on a very consistent basis. So I'll just scroll through the whole list here. I don't know if Spotgamma provides this list somewhere else. I just don't know that, but this is the list. And you're welcome, CarmFX. Now, as far as Equity Hub goes, as far as I know, every stock available to trade is in Equity Hub, and then Hero is just a smaller subset of that list of stocks. All right, so there's Palantir. Palantir, there appears to be more of a direct relationship between options trades and market maker hedging activity, although this notional value is pretty small. But I think Palantir has been in play, maybe at one time part of the AI cohort. Traders are buying calls today, as shown by the rising orange line and the positive notional value. So traders are buying calls, and that appears to have pretty strong influence on price action. All right, let's finish scrolling through the list. All right, so those are all the stocks on the list. Again, I don't know if Spotgamma provides a separate list that you could load into another watch list or a spreadsheet or whatever. I don't know if they provide that. They did at one time. I don't know if that's still available. But I do not see that the ETF that you mentioned in there, the URA, I believe. So that's not in there. I did not expect that it would be. All right, Tesla. Let me go back to my watch list. Go to Tesla. So as usual, there's a pretty strong correlation with options trades, hedging flow, and price action in Tesla. So I did not look at Tesla earlier today. Looks like a nice divergent short here as trader the hero signal was making lower highs as price made a higher high and reversed around 11. Let's go to Bookmap and take a look at that. Oops. Sometimes I forget to change my pen tool. All right, so here's Tesla. And here's the divergent short. Let's go back and take a look at Hero, see what options traders are doing, and see if we can get any clue for a potential setup. And here it looks like Tesla is making higher lows, higher highs, maybe heading for the 245 level, the hedge wall. That may be a little bit far off for today, but options traders really not supporting that move higher. So for today, they are buying calls. That's shown by the positive notion of value for the orange line. And they also are buying puts. That's shown by the negative notion of value and the falling blue line. Let's go back to the total signal. Still positive for the day. Go back to Bookmap. And thank you, Karma FX. You're welcome. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for kind words, and thank you for your request. Again, I really love this interactive sessions. So I'm glad someone has questions to ask. All right, so Tesla making a series of higher lows. It looks like it may have slowed down a little bit. 243 was resistance before. All right, let's take a look at, that's all the stocks that I had. So let's take a look at the indices. We'll start with the S&P 500. So the S&P 500 continues to chop up and down around the 445 level. The SPY level that used to be the put wall yesterday, now making a push higher, maybe toward the 446 level. Let's see what options traders are doing. So options traders are taking positive delta positions, helping to fuel the move higher. So they're continue to buy calls. And they are buying puts. Net for the day. But it looks like that activity at least has stopped or slowed down, at least for the moment. Let's take a look at a shorter look back period. See if we can get any more clarity. So not necessarily. This was looks like a little bit of a lead here for a long right around 1 p.m., 1:10 p.m., something like that. Price went back and checked the level, wherever that was, and now is moving higher as traders take positive delta positions. I'm going to change this back. All right, I'm changing it back to the one-day look-back period, looking at the cumulative values for the entire day. All right, let's go to Bookmap. So again, ES found support at this high liquidity level, 44.70, as well as the iceberg level that I talked about before, the blue line, showing where the icebergs were and probably still are. Not a lot left. It looks like 94 contracts. And secondary entry here right around this SPY 445 level, as well as VWAP just above that. All right, Mike G says the agent was done buying, thus done holding us in this range. Sorry, I'm not sure what that means. All right, Ben Most asks, how do iceberg traders affect price action? They may or may not have an immediate reaction on price. Here you can see that so you just have to look. So what Bookmap does is takes MBO data, market by order data, that's provided by CME for CME futures. Rhythmic is the only data provider that provides that MBO data. So Bookmap has these stops and icebergs indicator that takes that actual data, that is real data, labeled for these different types of orders, and displays it after they execute on in the order book here. So Bookmap is displaying this information after these levels trade. So again, I talked about, and you can see very clearly here, this blue line showing that some iceberg orders, this was partially executed. Let me just zoom in on this. Zoom in right here. So Mike or Ben, there's no one single reaction. Now there is a futures trader, Scott Pulcini. He presents every Thursday at 10 a.m. on the Bookmap channel, Discord and YouTube, and he has very specific setups for icebergs. I don't. I like to just interpret what I see, and that gives me an indication of what might happen. But this is very clear here, showing in this area again that larger traders were in here buying, and this is a good potential support level. And this horizontal blue line is showing that some of these orders were transacted, and not all. So there were existing orders that had not been transacted yet. So if you look closely, right here, you can see this. Let me clear this. So you can see this blue line stops right here, and then it picks up again. So these orders were completely filled here, and then new orders came in. The blue line stops there, so they were filled there. So this is a very, very good clue of a potential support level. In addition to the liquidity at the 44.70 level, you can see there's in this case, we know there are existing iceberg orders at this level that have not been filled yet. Very good indication of potential support. And again, these are orders that larger traders use, so you know there's size behind this. They use these orders to hide their size. But here with Bookmap, especially in this situation, we can see where they are and that they have not been completed yet. All right, so we know from this area right here, so that liquidity at 44.70 remains in the order book. Looks like the iceberg orders are front running that. And so we know right now there's still iceberg orders just above that level, and this is indicating 94 contracts still remaining. All right, so this is how I like to look at iceberg orders. So I have the on-chart indicator that's showing the specific events with these numbers, that icon, and the blue lines. And then I have the light blue line and the subchart indicator in sum mode, showing the overall cumulative activity for icebergs for the day. And then I have the cumulative data for the entire day in numerical form shown here. So far today, this number is positive. 6,320 buy iceberg orders, those are contracts, have been executed. All right, so again, Scott Posini looks at this differently. He's looking at specific events. I like to look at this overall range of what they're doing, and I can see the specific events here. So this is a very good clue for potential support at that level. And Ben asked, what significance do canceled iceberg orders mean to you? That's something that I don't look at specifically. I'm typically looking at a bigger picture. I'm looking at order flow and market maker hedging flow, reactions at gamma levels, in addition to iceberg orders. And again, I think Scott places much more emphasis on the stops and iceberg orders than I do. All right, great questions. Ben and Mike, thank you very much. My time is up. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thank you for your great questions and comments. Hope this helped. Everybody, again, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Bye.